Hi guys, hope everybody is safe and well. In this video we're going to talk about chapter 10 and the alternating bass technique, but first I'd like to just kind of follow up with the end of chapter 9. Distler suggests a couple of strumming patterns on page 54 and 55, one of them being the gateway into the alternate bass technique. I often get questions though about the brush damp technique that she refers to here. It really, if I explained what she's talking about for When the Saints Go Marching In, is a loose fist where you open the fingers across the strings and do a brushing technique, and then you damp the strings every other beat after doing the brushing technique. So it's brush and then brush damp, brush damp. It can be very effective when you stop the strings like that, but it's not a normal pattern you'd be playing in a song when you're accompanying somebody. Generally, you're going to let the strings ring and resonate, but that's what the brush damp technique is that she's referring to. You brush across the strings and then you brush and damp. So I would like to move on to the one on 55, which is really the gateway to the chapter 10 discussion. And that is the down in the valley pattern, which is in 3/4. And she suggests separating the root from the rest of the chord and playing what she's calling root chord technique. This is a very common technique for guitar players, and again can open up your playing in a lot of different ways. So if I do down in the valley with that technique, I would be playing a D chord, and as I'm playing the chord, I'm going to strike just the bass note on its own, and then the chord itself. I do not include the bass note in the strum technique. I play 4th string, strum 3, 2, and 1, bass 3, 2, and 1. If I incorporate the bass note into the strumming, its independence gets lost pretty quickly and we get a wash of sound. I want a separation between the bass and the chord, bass and the chord, bass and the chord. So if I do it in 3/4 time, I'll play through this song once. This is Down in the Valley, and I'm going to play 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now A7. 5th is in the bass. And that last one I caught the bass note in my last strum. And here there is a repeat sign that I didn't follow. I just played through the example one time. So the A7 required me to move to the 5th string with my thumb or pick and pluck that 5th string and then play 4, 3, 2, and 1 as my strumming group of strings. So in this case, I'd be playing 3/4 time, 5th string, strum, strum, 5th string, strum, strum. And when I play the D chord, I'm playing D string with 3, 2, and 1 as my strum. And it's a waltz or minuet type pattern in 3/4 time where I'm playing bass chord. In a 4/4 pattern, I'd be playing bass chord. So this opens up the door to the next discussion, and that is of chapter 10. And again, I may have to do this in more than one video, but I'm going to just talk about the introduction here a little bit. Chapter 10, I don't expect you to see this on the video. I'm sort of reading this myself. Hopefully you have the PDFs out with you, and you can refer to these and stop the video as many times as you need to. So the definition of alternating bass, and that's what this chapter is about, alternating bass, is just what it says it is. I'm doing that same technique I was just talking about with the bass note and the chord being separate, but I'm not using the same bass note every time. So I want to make a distinction. Bass is a term that we refer to as the lowest tone. It doesn't mean it's the root of the chord in all cases. Bass means literally that's the lowest sound that's being played. If you think of a choir with bass, tenor, alto, and soprano, bass is the lowest male voice, tenor is the middle male, alto is the middle female, and the soprano is on top. So when we say the bass of the chord, alternating bass, it doesn't mean that the root is the only tone being played. It means the note that's being played in the bottom of the chord is alternating. It's not the same every time. And we can alternate all sorts of different patterns. One of the typical ones that we hear, like a malagueña, has an actual chord being spelled out. We're going to start this discussion with the most simple form that we could possibly do, but even though it's the simple approach, it is the most useful approach that piano, bass players, and guitar players use. And again, I'm referring to that rhythm section group of us always supporting and playing chords in the musical world. So when we're doing alternating bass, what we have to think of is what is the root of the chord, and this is why I'm emphasizing finding the root. Again, on a written test, I would have had you guys marking down the root of a chord, and you should go back to that list of Hal Leonard chords and mark down the root string on each chord. Again, on an E chord, it would be the 6th string. On an A chord, it would be the 5th string. On the D chord, it would be the 4th string. On a G chord, it would be the 6th string, any G chord. On the C chord, it would be the 5th string. On the F chord, since we're not playing low F in that chord, it would be the 4th string, and B7 being the exception, or I shouldn't say exception, but sort of the odd chord here, it would be the 5th string as well. So those root notes should be known to you as you're playing the chord. It's the lowest chord you strum, or lowest string you strum as you're strumming through the chords. But it's also going to be now the root note that you're playing before you try to do this alternation. I would practice playing root, strum, or root chord technique on any chord progression or individual chord that you're trying to practice. So if I'm doing an A minor chord, I would play 5th string in the bass, and 4, 3, 2, and I would learn and familiarize myself with what is the root of that chord, what's the root string, and I would practice just playing the root and the chord and not alternating at all at this point. Go over the chords you know, the chords you like, the ones you like to play, and make sure you know where that root string is. If it's a G chord, then I'm going to play the 6th string. And I'm going to strum 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If it's the D chord, I'm going to play D and then strum. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a foundation of understanding and technique that's going to allow me to do the alternating bass. I've got a little bit of time. I'll just review one more time where the bass strings are for these chords we're playing. If I'm playing an E chord, whether it's E major, that was an E major, or E minor, or E7, 6th string is always going to be the root. If I'm playing A chords, 5th string for all 3 of those. If I'm playing D, all 3 of those are D chords. G in the bass is 6th string for the G chord. C, 5th string. F, 4th string, and B7, 5th string. So review those before you move on. Make sure you understand where the root is in each chord. In the next video, I'll talk about how to do the actual alternating bass pattern. Take care. See you soon.